On September 30, 1979, Fela Kuti, along with 60 of his supporters, which included members of his family, carried a symbolic coffin to the headquarters of Nigeria's head of state, General Obasanjo, at Jordan Army Barracks. They did this as a symbolic protest because Fela held General Obasanjo responsible for his mother's death. Fela's mother had passed away a year earlier in 1978 due to injuries sustained in 1977, when the army raided Fela Kuti's Kalakuta Republic compound and threw her from a building's second floor. As expected, this group of protesters led by Fela Kuti was brutally attacked by soldiers at Jordan Barracks. This peculiar incident is just one of the many intriguing episodes in the remarkable life of Fela Anikulapo Kuti, a Nigerian music superstar and political activist. Fela, known as the King of Afrobeat, created around 50 albums of politically charged music that both incited the Nigerian government and championed universal struggles of the working class. His lyrics, both poignant and provocative, were critical of the Nigerian government, denouncing corruption and human rights abuses. Fela Kuti's life was a constant source of annoyance to the Nigerian government. Born Olufala Ransom Kuti on October 15, 1938, in Abeokuta, Nigeria, Fela came from an elite Nigerian family, one of the few in Abeokuta to own a car. His mother, Chief Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, was a trailblazing figure and one of the first Nigerian women to drive a car. His father, Reverend Israel Ransom Kuti, was the principal of the prestigious Abeokuta Grammar School. Both of his parents were political activists who actively opposed British colonial rule in Nigeria. Growing up, Fela witnessed his parents' activism and their opposition to British colonial rule. His father, in particular, was brutally slashed on the face by a soldier's weapon for refusing to remove his hat while passing the British flag at a local army barracks. Fela's early education took place at Abeokuta Grammar School, where he began receiving music lessons and learned to play the piano at a young age. His father recognized the importance of music education and encouraged his musical pursuits. By age 8, Fela was occasionally entertaining his parents and their guests at the family piano. Reverend Israel Ransom Kuti, Fela's father, passed away in 1955. In 1958, Fela, now nearly 20 years old, left Abeokuta for London. His parents had hoped he would pursue a career in law or medicine, but Fela was determined to continue his musical journey. His mother reluctantly accepted his decision. In London, Fela took the entrance exam for Trinity College of Music but initially failed the music theory paper. However, due to his talent on the trumpet and his determination, the college allowed him to enroll and later retake the theory exam. His musical education at Trinity College accelerated his musical sophistication and exposed him to musical styles that were challenging to access in Nigeria. During his time in London, Fela also formed a band called Kula Lobitos, which played a fusion of jazz and African rhythm known as highlife, popular in West Africa during the 1960s. The band performed in clubs frequented by London's black community and at private events. In 1960, Fela married his first wife, Remy Taylor, with whom he had 3 children. After graduating from Trinity College in December 1962, he returned to Nigeria in 1963. In Nigeria, he faced challenges as he preferred jazz to the prevailing highlife music genre. His insistence on playing jazz led to his dismissal from the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, where he worked as a junior producer with responsibility for music programming. Feeling disillusioned with the Nigerian music scene, Fela left Nigeria for Ghana in 1967. It was in Ghana that he began to develop his distinctive style of music, which he later called Afrobeat. This marked a turning point in his career, and Fela Kuti would go on to become the King of Afrobeat. However, his music was not the only factor that contributed to his fame. In 1969, during a tour of the United States at the height of the Nigerian Civil War, Fela met Sandra Smith, also known as Sandra Isidore, a Black Panther and civil rights activist. Sandra introduced him to political and musical ideas that expanded his worldview, including the works of figures like Malcolm X, Angela Davis, and Frantz Fanon. Sandra Smith's influence deepened Fela's engagement with political activism and Pan-Africanism, and he began using Afrobeat music as a means of political protest and social emancipation. This marked a significant shift in his career, as he used his music to critique the Nigerian government, condemning corruption and human rights abuses. In addition to crediting his mother for his political ideas, Fela also acknowledged Sandra Smith's role in shaping his philosophy. Fela Kuti's life and music became a thorn in the side of the Nigerian government, and he used his art as a powerful tool for political and social change, inspiring generations of activists and musicians worldwide. Sandra Smith played a significant role in another aspect of Fela Kuti's life. She was the one who encouraged his use of marijuana. Although Fela had first experimented with marijuana in London around 1960, it was during his time with Sandra that he began using it daily, and he continued this habit until the end of his life. This detail about marijuana is crucial to the narrative that follows. After completing his tour of the United States, Fela's music underwent a transformation. It shifted from being primarily rhythm-focused to becoming a politically conscious and rebellious genre, which he pioneered upon returning to Nigeria. He expressed concerns about the underdevelopment of society due to foreign influences, emphasizing that there was no longer music solely for entertainment, but rather a focus on the struggle for people's existence. As an artist, he believed it was essential to incorporate these themes into his music and art. Consequently, he renamed his band the Africa 70. In 1970, Fela Kuti established a commune where his family and band lived together, housing his recording studio. The following year, he created a nightclub at Lagos's Empire Hotel, known as Afro Sport, where he held regular shows. Fela began writing songs that criticized the Nigerian government for exploiting the country's vast oil reserves to benefit the political elite. His shows became a focal point for the growing opposition to the military regime, which increasingly viewed Fela as a serious threat, leading to numerous attempts to incarcerate him. To understand the context surrounding Fela's conflicts with the Nigerian government, it's essential to consider the state of Nigeria during that period. Nigeria gained independence in 1960, but from 1966 to 1979, the country experienced four different military heads of state, including Generals Yakubu Gowon, Murtala Mohammed, and Olusegun Obasanjo. While Nigeria briefly returned to civilian rule in 1979, it was short-lived, as the military seized power again at the end of 1983, with General Muhammadu Buhari assuming leadership. Fela's songs critiqued these military governments, which he labeled as authoritarian. He also denounced corruption and the deteriorating state of essential services like electricity, telephones, and transportation in Nigeria. As you can imagine, these criticisms did not sit well with the government, leading to Fela's repeated arrests on various charges, often related to his marijuana use. An illustrative incident occurred in 1974 when Fela was nearly 36 years old. The police, who had been hounding him for years due to his anti-establishment music and outspoken nature, tried to frame him for drug possession, believing it would silence him. However, Fela managed to evade their scheme by swallowing the planted joint, leading to his eventual release. Fela continued to defy convention and embrace an unconventional lifestyle. He famously married 27 women in a single day to demonstrate his belief in traditional African customs, and challenge the stigma faced by the women living with him, who were not legally married. This action aimed to legitimize their status, as they were often criticized by conservative Nigerians. In 1979, Fela formed a political party called the Movement of the People, aiming to address societal issues through collective action. However, both he and his political party were banned from participating in Nigeria's presidential election. Despite these challenges, he reformed the Africa 70 band in 1979 and held a comeback concert at the University of Ife. He also defied police opposition and opened a new Africa shrine in Ikeja, Lagos. One of his most provocative acts occurred on September 30, 1979, which marked the one-year anniversary of his mother's death. On that day, Fela, along with about 60 supporters, including family members, symbolically transported a coffin to the headquarters of Nigeria's head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, located at Jordan Army Barracks. This daring move was a powerful statement that took place at the heart of Nigeria's power center. In this particular incident, Fela Kuti accused General Obasanjo, who was about to step down as Nigeria's president the following day, of being responsible for his mother, Chief Funmi's, death. As I alluded to earlier, Fela Kuti and his group, including Fela Kuti himself, were violently assaulted by soldiers after this encounter. Following this incident, he released a song titled "Coffin for Head of State," in which he vehemently criticized General Obasanjo and his deputy. Over the years, Fela Kuti consistently released music that harshly criticized the government and corrupt business figures. One notable example is the song "International Thief Thief" (ITT). At the time of its release, this song's title would have been instantly recognizable to any Nigerian, as it used the acronym ITT, which stood for International Telephone and Telegraph, a major telecommunications conglomerate. ITT was embroiled in allegations of making dubious payments, starting in 1975 and continuing into 1980, to secure lucrative telecommunications contracts in Nigeria. Central to these payments was a politically influential businessman named Chief Moshood Abiola, who reportedly received substantial sums from ITT and distributed some of these funds to Nigerian government officials, to gain favor for ITT within the country. In his track, Fela Kuti satirically redefined ITT as "International Thief Thief," directly targeting Moshood Abiola and other government officials involved in this scandal. Notably, Moshood Abiola also happened to own Decca Records, the record label to which Fela Kuti was signed at the time. Throughout the 1980s, Fela Kuti faced persistent harassment from the authorities. Despite this, he continued to release hit songs that spoke truth to power. His lyrics often criticized the new military leader, General Muhammadu Buhari, and his right-hand man, Tunde Idiabon. On September 4, 1984, as Fela Kuti was preparing to depart for a United States tour from Lagos, he was arrested on currency smuggling charges. His band, the New Africa 70, boarded the plane, assuming that Fela Kuti would follow on a later flight. However, Fela Kuti was held in detention pending trial. During the trial, Fela Kuti claimed that he had declared the £1,600 found on him on a customs declaration form, but the police alleged that the form had been lost. Customs officials willing to testify in his favor were also detained and unable to appear in court. Consequently, due to a lack of evidence to exonerate him, Fela Kuti was sentenced to 5 years in prison. His son Femi Kuti and the band, now known as Egypt 80, continued to perform at the New Africa Shrine in his absence. Fela Kuti was eventually released from prison on April 24, 1986, following a press statement by Justice Gregory Okoro Idogu, the judge at his 1984 trial. Justice Gregory revealed that he had been pressured by the military regime into imposing an excessively long sentence on Fela Kuti. He even visited Fela Kuti in prison to apologize for his role in the unjust sentencing. After his release, Fela Kuti held a press conference at the New Africa Shrine, announcing his intention to revive his Movement of the People Party and run for the presidency. He also staged a comeback concert at the National Stadium in Lagos and embarked on a United States tour. In 1986, he began working on the project Beast of No Nation, a song that critiqued General Buhari's public discipline campaign and targeted political figures, global institutions, and governments that Fela Kuti perceived as repressive. In the later years of his life, Fela Kuti and Egypt 80 continued performing, primarily at the New Africa Shrine. He persistently campaigned for the right to smoke marijuana and faced continued police harassment at the shrine. Rumors about his health began circulating, suggesting that he was suffering from an illness for which he was declining treatment. However, there was no official confirmation from Fela Kuti regarding these speculations. In June 1997, ill health forced him to cancel a European tour, and in late July, he was admitted to the hospital. Fela Kuti passed away on August 2, 1997, at the age of 58. The following day, His brother Olakoya and Soma Kuti, a prominent AIDS activist and former Minister of Health, announced that Fela Kuti had died from complications related to AIDS. His death was met with an outpouring of grief and respect, with a massive crowd gathering to pay their final respects. For the legendary Fela Kuti, music wasn't just a form of entertainment, but a potent tool for societal change. He passionately pursued this belief throughout his life. Fela Kuti's music remains influential and continues to spark debates across a wide spectrum of Nigerian and African society. His legacy endures, leaving an indelible mark on music and activism.